Hello and welcome to the Best and Worst Pictures podcast. I'm your host, Jake, and with me, as always, my co-host, Ian.
Jake!
Nope, that's just Ian. And joining us, as per usual, is my other equally as good co-host, Mud. How you doing?
Jake!
Oh, that's still wrong. What is this show, you might ask? Well, every so often we sit down and watch a Best Picture winner, and we determine one of the best or worst pictures as compared to the other winners. And this week, we're talking about none other than the 43rd Best Picture winner ever, which is, of course, none other than the 1970 hit classic, Patton. And to start us off, Mud has collected some fun facts which Ian and I have not heard ahead of time. So, Mud, take it away.
Thank you, Jake. So, Patton was released on February 5th in New York City as a special preview premiere, and then April 2nd to general audiences. It has a runtime of 172 minutes. Reception-wise, we're looking at a 7.9 out of 10 IMDb, 90% Rotten Tomato critics, 93% Rotten Tomato audience, 86 Metacritic score, and an 8.3 Metacritic audience score.
Love to see that they're all good.
The log line on Rotten Tomatoes reads, George C. Scott's sympathetic, unflinching portrayal of the titular general in this sprawling epic is as definitive as any performance in the history of American biopics.
Huh.
Yeah. So let's get into the production. First off, we have the director, Franklin J. Schaffner, who directed Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
Fun little fact about him, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, his hometown, marked the week between May 23rd and May 30th as Franklin J. Schaffner Week in 2020 to celebrate what would have been his 100th birthday.
Imagine having a whole week for you. That's sick.
Our first actor is, of course, George C. Scott, playing George S. Patton.
I hate that.
I hate it so much. I hate when actors play characters with the same name. He was in Doctor Strangelove. Yep, it's definitely his most well-known film outside of this one. He was also married 5 times in his life.
Those are rookie numbers.
Including 2 back-to-back marriages to Colleen Dewhurst, a Canadian actress. So they got married, divorced, married, divorced. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we have Carl Malden. He is in A Streetcar Named Desire. He was also the priest in On the Waterfront. I do believe we've talked about him before.
Possibly.
Mm-hmm. Fun little fact about him, as we're watching a movie about World War II, he's actually a veteran of World War II.
Lovely.
He was a sergeant in the Air Force.
Cool.
And finally, we have David Bauer. He was in Diamonds Are Forever.
Yay.
Yeah,
James
we got a Bond
boys.
actor. Let's go. Fun little fact about him. During most of his career, he actually used the stage name David Wolf until being blacklisted. As a result, a lot of online movie databases actually split his acting credits between David Bauer and David Wolf.
It's just the same picture of the guy.
Yeah.
With a mustache.
Let's move on to the production facts. George C. Scott initially refused to film the famous speech in the front of the American flag when he learned it would be the beginning of the film, as he felt the rest of the film wouldn't live up to like the hype of that scene. So Schaffner lied to him and said, we've decided we're actually going to put it at the end of the film.
Oh, yeah. Just lie, Schaffner.
Nearly half of this film's budget, $12.6 million in 1970, went to just renting equipment from the Spanish Army. Famously, this was one of President Richard Nixon's favorite films.
Oh, no.
He had his own print, which he would often watch at the White House. And according to a story, he actually would watch it before making important military decisions and watch this film before making the decision during the Vietnam War to invade the neutral Cambodia.
Patton causing bad influence.
John Wayne eagerly sought the role of General George S. Patton, but was turned down by the producer Frank McCarthy, although I did see another source that said that John Wayne turned down the role. So I'd like to think that he was looking for it and they said no because I don't want good things to happen to John Wayne.
He just has one tone.
It's true. So, other actors considered for the role of Patton include Burt Lancaster, Lee Marvin, Rod Steiger. Charlton Heston also turned down the role of Lieutenant General Bradley, who was portrayed by Malden in the film.
That would have been good.
Speaking of Bradley, actually, he was the last real-life general from World War II alive at the time that they were making this film, and served as a consultant.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah. This is a bit of a spoiler for the Awards 1 section, but screenwriters Francis Ford Coppola and Edmund H. North are both credited on the film as co-writers. They did not work on this together and never even met until they began collecting awards for the film.
That's nuts.
They met on stage.
Interesting.
Well, that is really cool.
Yeah. This was the first PG-rated film to win Best Picture.
Is it the first time PG was like a thing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was around the time that
ratings.
The rating system changed?
Also, I'm pretty sure most of everything before this has been PG-13.
That makes sense.
Also, Midnight Cowboy was either this or next year.
Next year, it was 1971.
1971,
where it changed to R.
it was
turning to PG or just R. Yeah. Instead of X.
Despite being the overall commander of the U.S. troops in Europe during World War II, Patton's immediate superior, and being mentioned constantly throughout the film, General Dwight D. Eisenhower makes no appearance in this film whatsoever, which I found wildly fascinating.
I'm sure they reference him, correct?
They reference him a lot, as
Yep.
I said, but he is never seen nor heard on screen. And of course, this film has some controversy about historical accuracy, including and specifically about the portrayal of General Patton, which
Always.
brings us to our long-running first-time segment, the Patton War Crime Lightning Round.
No, whoa. I love War Crime Lightning Round. Hold on. What's going on?
So, allegedly, probably,
Most definitely.
during the invasion of Italy, Patton ordered the execution of unarmed German and Italian POWs. This event was known as the Biscari Massacre, and yes, it does have a Wikipedia page. Thank you for asking.
I didn't ask, but I was thinking about it.
That was the big one. The other one that's not technically a war crime, but like, dude, what the fuck, is he was known for physically beating soldiers under his command who were displaying signs of shell shock, also known as PTSD. That also has its own Wikipedia page. There are at least 2 documented cases, and I do believe it's in the film.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad that's historically accurate.
Yeah. Moving away from war crimes,
Boo.
but still into how much of a terrible person he is, Patton was a noted anti-Semite who believed that America should not have gotten involved in the war. He was also a known open supporter of Nordicism, the belief that the Nordic people are a superior super race. Later in life, he denied these allegations, but historical letters trace his anti-Semitism back to as early as his time serving in the American Army in World War I.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So with that fun shit out of the way, other films that came out this year include MASH, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Airport, which Airplane is actually based on Zero Hour from 1957 because we talked about it last week.
Yep.
But the Airport series is kind of like a spiritual successor to Zero Hour.
Yep.
So I just wanted to clarify that. We also have Waterloo, Tora Tora Tora, and Crimes of the Future. So let's move on to the award show. Patton walked into the night tied with Airport for 10 nominations and ended the night with the most wins at 7.
Pretty decent.
The documentary Woodstock garnered 3 separate nominations in Best Documentary, Best Sound, and Best Film Editing. This record remains unbroken for the most nominations for a single documentary film. It was only tied 51 years later by Flea at the 94th Academy Awards.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Gregory Peck presented the Gene Herschel Humanitarian Award to Frank Sinatra this year. Just thought throw out some names that we recognize.
Those are 2 big names.
Yep. Helen Hayes took home Best Supporting Actress for her role in Airport. This marked the first time a performer won for both lead and supporting, having previously won for The Sin of Madelon Claudette 38 years prior at the 5th Academy Award. For context, that was the year Grand Hotel won.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
38 years between wins is nuts.
Yep. That is actually not the longest time between wins.
I would assume not.
Katharine Hepburn at 48 years.
That's wild. That's so long. Here, 50 years later, you get more awards.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the early awards, though, this was the first Academy Award ceremony since the 6th Academy Award, where all women nominated for Best Actress were first-time nominees.
That's cool.
Coincidentally, it was also the first time since the 7th Academy Award where all the men were first-time nominees for Best Actor. 10 first-time nominees.
That's just a wild coinkydink.
Yep. Let It Be by the Beatles took home Best Original Song Score, a different category from Best Song Original for a Motion Picture, which went to For All We Know from the film Lovers and Other Strangers. It's also different from Best Score.
Okay. What category was that? I'm very sorry.
Best Original Song Score.
For what?
For Let It Be.
Okay. Did they make up a category for it?
Yeah, I think they did.
That doesn't sound real.
Edith Head was nominated for Best Costume Design for Airport. She lost to Vittorioli Nino Novarasi for Cromwell.
Boo, more head wins, please.
So, let's move on to awards nominated. Alex Weldon was nominated for Best Special Visual Effects, but lost to A.D. Flowers and L.B. Abbott for Tora Tora Tora. They were the only films nominated for that category,
Okay.
so it was one or the other.
Yeah.
Fred J. Klonecamp was nominated for Best Cinematography, but lost to Freddie Young for Ryan's Daughter. Jerry Goldsmith, the composer for Planet of the Apes, was nominated for Best Original Score, a separate category from Best Original Song Score and Best Song Original for a Motion Picture.
Best original song score is just word salad.
But lost to Francis Lay for Love Story.
Don't like that.
Hugh S. Fowler took home Best Film Editing, which beat MASH, Tora Tora Tora, Airport, and Woodstock. Yuri McCleary and Jill Perando, art direction, as well as Antonio Mateos and Pierre-Louis Thevant, set decoration, took home Best Art Decoration.
Nice.
Yep. Douglas Williams and Don Bassman took home Best Sound. Francis Ford Coppola and Edmund H. North took home Best Story and Screenplay based on factual material or material not previously published or produced.
No fucking shot.
Just
That's
looking
the full
at that.
title.
I was just looking at that. If you did not mention this full legal
I
God-given government
could not.
name,
Dude, I read that and I was like, you gotta be shitting me. Best song score is Word Salad.
That's a fucking novel salad.
Best story and screenplay based on factual material or material not previously published or produced.
and then you hover over it and it says, "Oh, best original screenplay is the modern
Dude,
name."
I'm so happy that they finally decided the fucking title for Best Adapted and Best Original.
Yeah.
Because they've changed so many times in the past 10 years alone.
It's
They
weird
should
'cause
just-
the sentiment stays the same.
They should just combine the category and expand the nominee pool.
No, it's two different arts. I see what they're doing here.
Anyways, Franklin J. Schaffner took home Best Director. Best Picture, obviously, it took home beating MASH, Airport, Love Story, and 5 Easy Pieces.
I'm going to say right now,
What's up?
MASH fucking sucks.
Yeah, it does. We watched it. Now, if you were keeping score, I've only mentioned 9 awards. George C. Scott won Best Actor, beating Jack Nicholson for 5 Easy Pieces and James Earl Jones for Great White Hope, along with 2 other people who I don't care about.
Wow.
He declined the award, calling the Academy Awards, quote, a 2-hour meat parade, a public display with contrived suspense for economic reasons, end quote.
Meat parade is the best thing you could... Like M-E-E-T or M-E-A-T?
M-E-A-T.
That is so.
That's so good.
That is a Chad move, right
Can
there.
I just say, bro, I wish it was just 2 hours.
7-hour award. So, how many have been declined?
I think less than 10.
Yeah, it can't be that high of a number.
I can think of 2 off the top of my head.
Yep.
We're going to talk about the other one very soon.
I'm so excited.
I'm very excited. Anyways, finally, we have our Mary Pickford fact.
Woo!
In 2001, Carl Malden, who's in this film, was given the honorary Mary Pickford Satellite Award. It is bestowed by the International Press Academy, and it is considered, quote, IPA's most prestigious honor, end quote, as an award for outstanding artistic contribution and lifetime achievement. The statue itself is a bronze bust of Mary Pickford.
That's pretty cool.
I greatly desire to have a copy of this statue.
Agree.
I feel like after like 100 episodes of this, we could put together all of the Pickford facts and make like an audiobook of just fun facts about her whole life.
We could. I'm gonna be honest. I have considered buying like a Mary Pickford autobiography to read it to like
Nice.
get better facts.
We get the best facts.
That
Let's
was an
go.
interesting fact. It pertains to one of the actors in the movie.
That's what it's
Yeah.
all about, yeah. All right, well, with all that, of course, out of the way, how excited are we for Patton?
I'm jazzed.
3 hours of war crimes, I wasn't that excited, but now that you put it that way,
Wow.
I will say I think we're gonna be spending a lot more focus on the score of this film. Ian, you have repeatedly said that Planet of the Apes has the greatest score of any
it
film.
does. It does.
So I'm very curious to see what we think about this score.
Yes.
Yeah.
If same guy, he is one of the most talented composers.
He was
so
nominated
I am
for this.
fucking excited.
So without all that out of the way, or with all that out of the way, rather, there is no reason not to dive directly in. We'll see you guys on the other side. So we just watched the hit feature-length 1970 blockbuster epic production Patton. How do we feel?
It definitely put the length in feature length.
Boy, did it. I know, it's tough.
God.
I think
It did not put feature
All
in
right.
feature length.
we
either,
agree
though.
on or disagree on a lot of things, but we should agree on this one thing. The runtime used perfectly. No, it's fucking terrible.
Atrocious.
This film should be an hour shorter.
It's so bad.
There is so much you can cut. I made a note, actually. The scene towards the beginning of the film, they get into a firefight.
Yeah.
And Captain Dick, that is his name,
Yep.
gets killed. And there is, I swear to God, a 15-second shot of Bradley just staring supposedly at Dick's corpse.
Mm-hmm.
Just like staring into the camera where he's like, my God, he's dead.
Put him in my truck.
And then it holds.
Yep.
Yeah, no, he goes, put him in my truck, and it holds
Yeah.
for about 10 to 15 seconds of him just staring. And then he looks away, and then it cuts.
Yeah. It is
Awful.
very long and drawn out for a lot of things that shouldn't be long and drawn out. And to the detriment of the film, it then hard cuts away from interesting things.
There are at least 3 occasions in this film where they like crescendo the action and apex it with like this huge sound. Hard cut to like the hours after where fucking Patton's just in his office just like
It takes all of the liberties of lingering on things that don't matter and then really cuts away from the things that should be more interesting. That's what a good film does with its runtime.
I will say, though, for all 3 hours worth and all of the problems, I love his performance.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not saying he's bad at acting. I'm just saying the character, the way he was written and maybe taken liberties with and maybe was in real life. We don't fucking know.
Because, like, during the fun facts, it was like, oh, my God, he won Best Actor over this guy and that prominent guy and Jack Nicholson or whatever. I kind of see it. I mean, I haven't seen the other ones,
it was
but,
a
like...
very impressive performance. There's a
Yes.
range of emotion.
He performs very well. You know who doesn't? Brad. His acting is kind of flat. I'm not gonna lie. And he's like the second guy that we get the most of in the film.
He's definitely like the second most important guy in the film.
pretty fucking bland, like milk toast acting.
I think it was kind of on purpose though. Like they call Brad the GI General. Like he is supposed to be milk toast and bland.
Yeah, but I just didn't like the performance on his part. You know, I understand having a boring guy and you can make him whatever, but I just didn't think his performance was very strong.
I really don't think there's, like, anybody else in the movie...
There really isn't.
Well, yeah, I was about to make that point where it's like nobody's, like, impactful except the main guy.
Even Rommel just shows up every hour or 35 minutes for a scene and then goes away and then kills himself and
Off screen, not mentioned. I wanted to soapbox about that later, but I guess we'll talk about it now. Patton makes a big deal. He's like, oh, I want to face Rommel. I want to face Rommel. I want to face Rommel. And he gets mad that he doesn't repeatedly to the point where he tells his soldiers not to tell him factual statements about a battle because it hurts his feelings.
Gaslight me.
Right? And then at the end of the movie, which ends right around like December 1944 with the liberation of Bastogne. Fun fact, that's about 13 days after Rommel killed himself.
Yep.
I wish we had gotten a scene with how important Rommel is to the beginning of the film. A scene where Patton reacts to the news that Rommel is dead.
No, that would have been too smart to put in the film.
Yeah, especially because you kind of built him up to be like
The
antagonist,
the driving force for why Patton is hell bent to Germany as he
like
is.
he specifically notes several times he wants to face.
He has his fucking book on his dresser.
Specifically, Rommel in combat.
Yeah,
and it just falls away after like the first hour.
I feel like this movie, and this is kind of the crux of many more of my criticisms, but it has its cake and eats it too. And what I mean by that is it does this on one part. It does this character study of this man who is incredibly flawed and driven for this purpose that one could say is right or wrong depending on context, and it's this whole deep dive. There's actually a lot of interesting parts here. And it also glorifies him as this epic, legendary war hero.
Dude,
yeah.
So much of like there are scenes of the Nazi responses. And like they're like, oh, this new commander, Patton, what do we have on him? And they're like, he's a warrior poet from an old age. An anachronism caught in time.
Yeah. I would like to talk about Patton as a character real quick. He is irredeemably incompetent, egotistic, built up as this grand hero. Like, And even in his darkest moment in the film of, oh, I got kicked out of my army, it was just a ploy. Like, they only kicked him out to set up a false decoy for the Germans. He
Yeah.
was never really kicked out. He never had any consequence for
is
anything he did.
only
There was
ever rewarded.
No bad. He's only ever rewarded. The only punishment that this man's ever gotten was fake, to throw the Germans off the scent of what was really going on.
And the end of
And
the film,
he gets this big triumphant return where they play fanfare and he burns down villages and defeats hundreds of thousands, liberating thousands of people.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't know if it's that specific triumphant music, but there is a point where they're mowing down people and he's like, fuck yeah. Not saying fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like, tone down for
He's
Manny,
basically-
but he's basically saying fuck yeah. And they're mowing everybody down and playing happy, amazing music. And
No.
it cuts to like 5 seconds later to how many of Patton's men are dead and missing.
how many of the German men are dead?
The
Yeah,
German
same.
men are dead and missing.
No,
Like,
yeah, it's gratuitous. The first half of the film is building up how much his men fucking hate him. And you're like, well, shit, they're right. I'm spending all this time with Patton, and he's a fucking asshole. And then at the end of the film, when he drives them into Germany, he's doing the exact same shit and the exact same tactics. And all his men are like, we love you, we'll follow you to the end of the earth. And I'm like,
Boo.
Yeah. And
he's gone through exactly zero character development.
nothing. There's no arc.
There's no change.
There's none.
And then at the end of the film, which is the most egregious thing that happens, I don't care. I don't know if this happened in real life, but oh my God. At the end of the film, Bradley looks Patton dead in the eyes and goes, you know that soldier you slapped? Which references the scene inspired by the fact that Patton physically assaulted and beat soldiers showing signs of shell shock. He goes, you know that soldier you slapped? I bet he did more to win Sicily back for us than any other soldier in your army. And it's like, holy shit, Yep, everything you did in this entire film, Patton, was unilaterally correct and the greatest decision that any person could ever make.
See-
this movie sucks him off so much.
That is half of it. And then the other half attacks him, which is why I'm so conflicted.
No, I agree. There's a
I-
weird juxtaposition because, like, everything he does is awful, and people like note that it's awful, and then they promote him anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like maybe from our extrapolation, oh man, he's terrible. But everyone else around him is just a big old yes man for him. So it doesn't feel like that in the film. That's a problem.
Like, there's a scene earlier, also with Bradley, where Bradley like dresses him down and goes, "You're a pain in the neck."
Yeah.
Like, fucking talks down to him. He's like, dude, the only reason you're here is because for some godforsaken reason, Ike likes you.
Yeah.
That's it. Everyone else would have you tossed the fuck out. And he just goes, yeah. And that's it.
Yep.
Nothing else about it. He's like, oh, I'm a prima donna. Which the movie starts with an extended speech
And that
by
speech is so
Patton.
good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's the only good part of the film.
But there's a little thing in there where he says that there is no individuality in the army. And then the rest of the film
Him being
is Patton on a fucking ego trip.
Mm-hmm.
All about himself.
And I kind of like that, because if you look at that, it's the film saying this man is a hypocrite.
I agree. However,
He
the
only
film also
never gets
presents
punished.
that he never gets punished. He's only ever rewarded. And the most frustrating thing is, for as historically accurate or inaccurate as this film is, it's based on real life. So my complaints about the story are moot.
Yeah, I know.
And I can't go, this story would be improved, and then suggest my own ending, because that's also just fucking fan fiction
Yep.
of real life.
However, you can make the conversations and tone around him demean him in a way that he doesn't feel like a fucking caricature war hero.
Yeah, if this film was only it putting smoke up Patton's ass for 3 hours, it'd be like a 0. But that's
It
why,
almost
like,
is.
I don't think so. I think enough of this movie, maybe not more than half.
This film confuses me.
I think still, like, almost half of this movie is the other side of that coin, where it is directly criticizing what he does. And I think the speech is a great example of the movie itself doing that. because I think the director of Planet of the Apes, is smart enough to know, like, hey, this general is not the best guy. We should paint him in this light. But then he only does that sometimes. So I don't know. I don't know, man.
And
his apology is not even an apology.
he is forced to issue an apology for slapping that soldier, and he fucking doesn't say, he doesn't just go, I'm sorry for my actions, they were wrong. He's like, I thought if I did this, I'd motivate him, you know, shaming the man into fighting. I hope this explanation and apology is enough.
He literally said, I'm sorry that you all got offended. This is what I was trying to do.
I mean, the movie is basically in a way, this movie's a 3-hour farce about a man in the 1940s getting canceled repeatedly for his own actions.
In that way, I think that's really enjoyable. Like, that's what draws me in. That's what, like, every scene that made me go, oh my God, this scene's a million years long, I can't wait for it to end. Then a scene like that comes along and I'm like, okay, that's kind of amazing.
Like, he's, like, I can't even, it's not even an exaggeration. He's literally getting canceled.
Yeah.
For, like, saying offensive things. And then he's like, why am I getting canceled?
This is ridiculous.
All I did was beat a soldier who has PTSD.
And speak French in a very stupid way. Which, by the way, him speaking French was just comedy.
That was a good scene because it was funny. But like, you know what this film does poorly that I don't like as well? And I talked about this with you guys a little bit during the film because I was confused at why they haven't brought it up.
Is this the conversation we said to wait on? Because I kind of
No, this is the Russia conversation.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Russia was probably the most important part of World War II. Like, I'm not going to lie, especially on the German front.
Oh, yeah.
And
100%.
they mentioned the Eastern Front once, and then towards the end of the movie, show the Russians dancing, and then Patton talks shit about them.
To their face.
And
He's rewarded for
and
it.
a phone call.
And he's rewarded for
He has
it.
the phone call afterwards where he's like, I will go to war with Russia myself. This film was made in probably 1968, 1969, came out in 1970, the height of the Red Scare.
Just after
This
the Cuban
film
Missile Crisis.
is 100% a product of that. I think if this film came out 10 years earlier or 10 years later, the Russians would be mentioned at all and like actually portrayed as part of helping defeat Germany, not just England and America.
Or even better, Patton's on this fucking ego trip because he wants to be the star boy of the fucking war. And he's got this rivalry with the lead...
Montgomery.
Yeah, the lead British general, Montgomery.
Yep.
Montgomery's effectively taken out at Antwerp with the operation, I don't know what it's called, a bridge too far. That fucking thing, right? But, as history will teach us, the Russians got to Berlin first.
Yep.
Patton is talking about how he wants to get to Berlin first. And he is portrayed as hating the Russians right at the end.
Yep.
Where was this rage before that? Why is he not flipping shit that the, like, since he's such a fucking military mastermind, why doesn't he put together that the Russians are going to reach Berlin first?
Why doesn't he mention them ever until the end?
Like, oh my fucking God. If you hate the Russians so much, why hasn't it come up ever in this film?
It's bad. The script needed 7 more passovers and cuts.
He's just such a jackass. And he is the most thin-skinned, egotistical man. Like there's a scene where they're in Sicily and they're launching this invasion, and he's like, we're gonna do an amphibious landing, and the general's like, yeah, my men are not ready for that, and he's like, too fucking bad. And it's like,
I will fire you.
like, you're not a competent commander.
No, he's not.
Like, there's nothing in how Patton leads that exudes competency or like a general understanding of how to actually fucking fight a war.
It's literally it's bullheadedness the whole time.
It's bullheadedness. Just keep attacking, keep advancing, keep fighting. Just grind them down. It's like, dude, you have no sense of nuance. No wonder they compared him to Stonewall Jackson, because Jackson was kind of fucking stupid.
His brain was a stone wall.
Yeah.
That's the only part about him.
Yeah. Like, if your entire chain of command is telling you that you have just run your soldiers into the ground and they are too exhausted to continue fighting, and then you go, too fucking bad, and then you go, ooh, why did I get to leave my command? What did I do wrong? Fuck you.
You did everything wrong.
Especially when they're like, he's a warrior poet of history. And it's like,
Fuck
okay, did you read the history? Do you know what wins battles? fucking nuance.
It's strategy.
Tactics. Strategy.
Not go forward always.
Being a real commander to your men.
No, Mud, always go forward.
Dude,
That's going to win.
It's like this movie's played so straight, but it feels like it's a fucking comedy.
It's so fucking
Because
stupid.
they suck him off so much.
They really do.
He has all these beautiful
He's getting a
speeches.
painting of himself at the end. Oh, Patton.
He's like, this city was the most conquered in the world by all these fucking ancient civilizations. It's a right.
me.
It's a rite of passage for a true conqueror to take this city. And now I have. And it's like, dude, they literally say you encountered a token force. The Sicilian invasion is the most clearest example of this. He goes against everyone to do his own plan because it makes him look good.
He feels like a caricature. He's a caricature.
He's such a fucking jackass.
Jake, can we have our conversation about Patton now?
Kick it off, baby.
So, they want me to feel sympathy for this man at some point in this film. Like, they paint him in sympathetic lights and like a triumphant, oh my God, he's actually a genius. I have two glowing examples of this.
Sure.
In the first part of the scene where he slaps the guy later on and completely ruins the whole scene, we go to the military barracks and all of the injured soldiers. Yeah, thank you. He's talking to them, like giving them their props, respect, like actual genuine like care, love, Purple Hearts, like tending to each one individually almost. And that's a good example of the sympathy. Like, you're supposed to feel the sympathy for him there because, like, oh, he actually does kind of care about these people. Like, it makes sense. However, later on in that scene, he completely ruins it by beating the shit out of a man for no reason. And on top of that, he's the reason that they're there because he's such a fucking stubborn, incompetent moron. So it doesn't matter that he's feeling all that sympathy when he's the one grinding them out and sending them to their deaths for no reason. For his own stupid ego trip.
If I can add to that, it's not just later in the scene. It's literally the next
same scene!
No. It's not just that. It's literally the next fucking soldier he talks to. He sits at the bedside of this soldier who's got his eyes covered with heavy gauze. His chest is completely wrapped. He's on a fucking ventilator.
Yeah.
And he puts a Purple Heart down and he prays for him. And it's this beautiful moment of silence where everyone's watching. Like, oh my God, maybe the general does have a heart. And then the next scene, get the fuck up. You're going straight to the front line.
yellow-bellied
You stupid
bitch!
little bitch. There will be no battle fatigue in my fucking
I
army.
will shoot you myself.
Starts reaching for his gun.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to disagree much. I completely agree with you. The movie has two separate tones about it.
And then an hour and a half later, you know that boy you slapped? I think he fought hard. Oh, really?
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
And then the moment where it wants us to feel some kind of good for him, like he's a hero, playing all the triumphant music. Oh, Patton saves all these people, like that shit. Like, ugh.
Let's focus on one example at a time here. The first one you mentioned with him with the feeling, quote, quote, sympathy at the start, then flips out. I think that's on purpose to, like, give us the idea of, oh, hey, are we going to make him a sympathetic character? Bitch, no, we're not. And then he does, like, the most unsympathetic
He's already
scene.
not been sympathetic for a while. He's been this egotistical, in his own words, prima donna.
Right.
Who just wants the limelight.
So it starts out one way and it veers directly into the actual point of the scene.
For me,
if you were to switch, for example, if you were to switch that around and start out with the scene where he beats somebody and then later, like right after that, he's like, oh, you guys are, you know, whatever, and he's sad, that would have been weird for me.
I think it has the same effect.
No, that would have been way worse.
I agree. It would have been way worse because the whole point of that scene was to give you an idea that maybe we're going to go a certain direction and then veer us into the other direction. And I like the other direction they go into.
I hate Patton as a character.
Sure, me too.
Sucks. Honestly, I think one of the reasons that I feel like we're supposed to have some kind of like positive feeling, any kind of positive feeling towards him, is because of how much they suck him off during the whole film.
There is that scene after Bradley gets promoted over Patton, where he's talking to his staff officer, who's also named George, and the guy's like, all this over a slap.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of the people that he surrounds himself with, as you pointed out, Ian, yes, man, are just like there to reinforce Patton's every fucking idea that he is correct in everything he does. And even other people who say they hate him kind of do that. Like Bradley being like, oh, we need a fucking crazy fucking psycho bastard to lead this army. And Patton's like, please please, please. And then he's like, yeah, Ike approved it 3 months ago.
Yeah. He never got a real punishment for that, basically.
And I think that keys into something because Bradley says that with like an honest to God smile on his face. But then more or less the next scene Bradley's in is the "you're a pain in my neck" scene.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been better to speak a little bit in criticism about Bradley's character because you do have some points, Ian. I think it would have been better if we see Bradley from the start as his subordinate slowly just melt down with Patton.
Yeah.
To being his superior and finally being like, you're a fucking pain in my ass. And
That should have been the forefront where in that conversation he goes, no. And Patton's like, please, 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 like begging him. And he goes, not my fucking decision. I decided this three months ago.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want you here, but someone else does.
Yeah.
So I guess you have to
And then the
be.
gasoline scene is immediately followed by Patton's men being destroyed because they're out of gas, which subtly reinforces the idea of like, oh, if they just listened to Patton, everything would have been fine. Fuck you. Maybe don't send your soldiers out in the middle of the night with not enough gas to get to wherever the fuck you wanted them to go.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, my criticism with Bradley is the same criticism that I had at the start of this recording, which is that no character had an impact on me except Patton. If you guys didn't call him Bradley, I wouldn't have called you his name. I couldn't recall anybody in this fucking movie except Patton. They're so bland and barely there.
Yeah.
And I think so. When I was doing research for this, I saw like the Dwight D. Eisenhower thing. He's not actually in the film. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I decided to mention it. I didn't realize it's actually kind of detrimental to the film because Ike is Patton's superior. And we're repeatedly told that Ike is the only one in Patton's corner on several occasions.
But he's not the only one in Patton's corner.
He's not, but we are told that at least. It would have been really good to see some scenes of Patton actually like talking to Ike. And we understand why Ike chooses Patton, despite the fact that Patton's a raging asshole.
I would have liked to see scenes where Ike was talking. Do we have literally anybody else that can do this? So it's not just
Or
yes,
hell,
yes,
how
yes,
about
yes,
the scene
yes.
at the end of the movie where Patton gets fucking fired for flipping shit on the phone about how he's going to invade Russia single-handedly in a false flag attack to start another war?
Yeah, that was pretty fucking funny.
He is crazy.
Peak
He's
1970.
beyond psychotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The script of this film is the problem. The story, you can do the same exact fucking story, but you have to do something with the script and the dialogue and the tones and the cadences and how we view Patton.
You got to get rid
because
of those
it's
scenes where like
too much.
you got to get rid of those scenes where they're like, at the end of the day, you really didn't do anything wrong. You were right. In fact, you should have gone the extra mile and shot that kid in the face.
Less yes men, less, Patton, blah, blah, blah. You needed more opposing force to him because 100% people would have been an opposing force in real life to this man.
Absolutely.
There is no way in fucking Sam hell that they all looked at Patton and everything he did and no one said a fucking thing. There's no way that he got no resistance from like even Bradley as a subordinate can be like, don't you think you're being too hard on the men, sir? Like nothing. There was nothing.
He reminds me a bit of Robert Duvall's character in Apocalypse Now, Bill Kilgore. But the difference is Kilgore cared about his men. Kilgore treated his men like they were his sons.
Yep.
He was crazy, yeah, but you still got the idea of why he got results is because he was fucking charismatic.
Yeah.
Patton in this film is like, how do I put this? Kilgore's forwardness of just bombing the shit out of everything mixed with the utter psychosis of Kurtz's mentality that you need to just unilaterally wipe your enemies off the map.
Yeah.
Like, he is the best of both worlds.
He's the worst of both.
He's the worst of both worlds.
Just
like,
not a good character.
And
it's tough
as a
because
big
there's no
fan
other
of as a
characters.
big fan of Apocalypse Now. It is horrifying to imagine the love child of Bill Kilgore and Colonel Kurtz.
It's really hard for me to be happy about this film, especially with none of the other characters being particularly interesting, disliking the main character so much, having a lot of problems with the script surrounding the main character, and it genuinely being god-awful paced.
It's, dude, there's a scene in the montage when he's going to liberate Bastogne where, like, some of his soldiers drive by and they're holding up a curtain that says, "Hey, Ike, want to win the war? Let Patton do it." It's like, fuck you. He's learned nothing. He treats you the exact fucking same, I guarantee it. He literally just goes, "I'm sorry, please let me command again," and they give it to him.
Yeah,
He's
they
learned
didn't
nothing!
they didn't even give it to him then. They gave it to him 3 fucking months ago. He never progresses as a character. He never learns anything. And it's a 3-hour waste of time. Let's just put it. The best scene in the film is the opening. Then you can turn it off.
Funny you mentioned that because my last notes are just on the opening.
I want to talk about one more thing.
Yes.
It is the most positive thing I can say about this film. The special effects, especially in the battle scenes,
They're
are
really good.
amazing.
Yes, they are.
Good practical set scenes, good miniature work. They flip a car at one point with a series of explosions. It's just gorgeous to look at. The fight scenes in this film are fucking amazing.
You're right. No, you're
just
100% right.
absolutely unilaterally beautiful effects, good stunt work. There's a scene where a guy gets hit, quote, quote, by a tank and falls underneath. And I know it's not a big deal, but it's still like, oh shit, that was cool. I really like the design of the battle sequences. I think they were very effective. And I think they were the right mix of like, oh, fuck yeah, this looks so fucking cool. And oh my God, these soldiers are dying. Although I did find it funny because it's the 1970s. They do what I call the death wail, where like the explosion goes off next to them and they go, ah, and they throw their arms up in the air.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
There was
That's a
one
lot of that.
sequence. It was like a German tank fired and it cut to the Americans and it exploded behind them. I swear to God, all 3 soldiers did the exact same like death animation. Basically, they ragdolled the exact same way. They like threw their hips out to the left
Real
and then
life
threw their
ragdoll.
arms up over their heads
Yeah.
and just fell down.
Yeah.
And they did it in sequence in unison.
Yeah, it was great.
It was so funny.
Yeah, it was.
It was like it's like watching a video game that only has so many set like death ways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the NPCs ragdoll in the exact same way.
I love the battle scenes. My only criticism with them is lumped into the overall criticism of they're way too long, but that's the movie's fault. It's the movie's problem.
I do agree. They are a little long, and they are long without purpose.
Yeah.
I'm okay with
Yeah.
a long battle sequence if like there's a shifting strategy or there's like a slow burn realization or something like what Game of Thrones does, where the longer the battle goes on, the more gory it gets and the less what's the word I'm looking for? Like glorified it is.
Yeah. It's like they actually mentioned and never showed in this because this film sucks balls. That battle where they ran out of gas, it turned from a tank battle to a gunfight
hand-to-hand
battle to
fight.
hand-to-hand combat. Man, if you were going to take a long battle scene, why not show me that?
Yep.
And,
The actual
and man, it would have been great because it would have been like Patton's like, oh man, we did run out of gas and that was my fault. And oh my God. But no,
Look at
no.
the horror.
This film the horror. This film is so lacking in self-awareness.
Yeah.
And I feel this great frustration because I have so many like my inner like snob screenwriter has like all these points of like you could have changed this here, you could have changed this here, but this is real life. I can't do that.
You can. Just by showing different things and doing different things. You can keep the story the fucking same and make this
I
film
want
better.
to change the story.
During
Literally.
battle sequences, like when that guy was like almost run over by a tank, or technically was, but he was fine. I kept thinking about Saving Private Ryan, which lost to Shakespeare in Love, mind you. We'll talk about that.
Yep.
But I kept thinking about scenes like that, and I'm like, wow, yeah, this is, it's good. It's good. It's getting me into it for what it is, sure. But they went on way too long. That's the problem I had. And eventually, after like 2 or 3 minutes of battles and blowing ups and stuff, I get divested again. And I think that's the movie's fault for doing that.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's just battle for the sake of battle. There's no progression.
Imagine if we get any interaction with the captain of that army and he runs out of gas and he's like, all right, General Patton would want us to keep moving forward and fight, so let's fucking fight.
Right.
To the company's detriment. And you see them slowly start losing people. Munitions are going out. They go into a hand-to-hand combat slog. And we have the investment in the character. We have the real life. That's what fucking happened in the war. Like,
And what's the scene after it? It's Patton and Cod in the field. And Patton's just like, God damn it all. If I just had gasoline, I could take Berlin in 10 days. Why is God not letting me be the righteous warrior that I should be?
boo.
Like,
Fart.
like they explicitly state in the film that he believes in reincarnation, and he talks about being in like ancient battles and like Napoleon French battles, Carthaginians, and he says these things with his whole chest.
Yeah.
And nobody looks him dead in the eyes and goes,
What the fuck are you talking about?
what?
Yeah. People like look at him and go, ha ha ha. But
ha,
nobody goes,
that's
are you
funny."
well?
Yep.
Dude. Oh, also, one more minor thing. The scene where Montgomery explains his plans for Sicily and he breathes on the glass and makes a little fucking map.
That's
I
cool.
thought that was neat.
Yeah.
It was a good little framing.
Yeah.
Jake, do you want to talk about the opening?
Oh yeah, that was
Yeah.
like a million
That-
years
that-
ago.
That's
Holy
pretty
shit.
much everything else. I just wanted to get that out of the way before we talk about
That
the
10
opening.
minutes, yeah. No, I expected the speech to be yellier and angrier. It was pretty quiet and normal. It's like he was just talking to his buddies in a bar or something like that. And except for saying America never lost, everything Patton says in the opening is kind of spot on. Like his philosophies on war. He says something like dying for your country doesn't work as well as making them die for their country. Objectively, that's true.
He's objectively correct.
So, like, he's saying things that, like, if you put it in broad strokes, yeah, I see your point. And it sets up an interesting character, sets up to be developed over a great 3-hour movie. I don't think it did that,
it didn't.
but it is a great opening that makes me want one.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. They got the start right.
The only other note that I really have is that I really like how in the Patton versus Rommel that never gets explored and then gets dropped off the face of the earth because this movie's not good. I have to keep reiterating. I just don't like this. Their own books that they've written are what's fucking them.
Yeah.
He has Rommel's book and he's like, oh, this. I got you. And then they have info on Patton and they're like, no, he's like a fucking stupid little bitch warrior. Like, oh, look at this. He's going to go to Sicily. Like, all their own strategies, quote, quote, because both of them sucked at strategy in this entire film, are what, like, very heavily laid out in their character flaws. And that's funny as shit.
Yeah, it's great.
If only the Patton and Rommel thing was, kept consistently throughout the film.
Yep. Oh, I have one more note here. German characters actually speaking German and not English in a German accent. Movie has balls. Doesn't care about audience appeal or whatever.
Glad they went the extra mile with that for realism.
Yeah, it's great.
Also, Patton's makeup is bad, especially in the beginning of the
Yeah,
film.
you could see his forehead.
You can see the line where they like applied
yeah.
like bronzer,
Yeah.
and his eyebrows are just
His eyebrows are
atrocious.
funny. Yeah.
I think I would have cared more if the performance were bad, though.
That's
Oh,
true.
yeah. I
No,
think
it's one of those things where like once you get used to it, you're like, yeah, whatever. That's just
Yep.
what he looks like.
Yep.
I think that's pretty much everything
I
I'd want
don't
to say.
believe I have to give this film a rating.
Well, I'm fully prepared to be the only guy who rated it positively. 6.
That is too high.
That's what I figured.
I feel like this film doesn't do anything that it was trying to do right. Great performance, some really good special effects. You can't really fault the story because it's based on real life. So I'm not going to tell you to change real life. That'd be stupid for a biography.
I feel like that's a direct attack on Mud.
No, it's not.
No,
That's
I've acknowledged like it's a frustrating thing where it's like
It is
I wish
frustrating because I wish they could change it.
I could have talked another 20 minutes about how this film's plot could have changed, but it's pointless.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
It's real life.
You know, Mud, if it weren't based on real events, I would fully agree with you.
Yeah, if it wasn't based, dude, if it wasn't based on real events, I would have had a fucking 30-minute rant where I just completely rewrote the entire script. But I can't.
I don't.
This really happened. For the most part, this on the whole really happened.
Yeah.
The thing is,
It's,
it's
like
not.
you trying to predict who the Zodiac killer is.
Bro, it was fucking Paul Avery. Don't get me started.
It's not super hot shit dog water, but it's like a 3 out of 10. It doesn't do anything. It's fucking too long by like an hour, which is a sin. That's almost a whole feature-length film in the 40s. It's fucking long. The main character's unlikable, doesn't have a character arc, and gets sucked off the whole time, even though he's just not a good dude. And even if you want to make the argument that they're trying to attack him, the film does too much yes-manning and positive things to him to make me believe that.
Padding and reinforcing.
Yeah, there's just too much, ooh, yes, Patton, you actually did nothing wrong, to make me think that was the intention of the film.
I concur.
There are good character things in there when they, quote, quote, try to break him down, but it gets severely muddled by it being a boring sack of shit and them just yes-manning him too much, to be quite honest.
Mud, you concurred. Do you concur with the score?
George C. Scott's performance is amazing.
He does a really good job.
The set work and the effects in this film are beautiful.
Fully agree.
I don't know what this movie wants me to feel.
Yep.
Because it feels, like I said, it feels like a farce about a man who keeps getting canceled.
Yeah, and I love that shit.
I love it. It's kind of funny because every scene goes the exact same way, where he's like, what do you mean they're canceling me? All I did was say the N-word with the hard R. Why are you booing me? Like...
Wait, this is the 40s. They wouldn't care.
For audience,
It's
for
a
context,
metaphor.
Yeah, I know.
He
Audience,
also
if-
isn't getting canceled.
if you didn't actually watch the movie, Mud's only exaggerating a little bit.
Just
It is mostly
but at
that.
the same time, we have scenes where they're like, no, Patton, you did good, champ. Hit the showers. Here's another star. Good
Yeah.
work, buddy.
The only criticism he gets in the whole movie is for slapping that soldier, and then Bradley, his only real guy who opposes him.
Oh, that was
once.
Bradley.
Bradley once calls him a pain in the neck, which is
Yeah.
the most mild thing you could... I've said worse shit to Ian today.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, with that and the feeling of I don't know where I'm supposed to be, I feel like I'm in the middle. 5.
Yeah, it's closer to mine than
Yeah,
Ian's.
no,
Still too high.
I don't know. This is the most confusing film I've ever watched because I don't know what you want me to feel.
I know.
I'm confused.
I feel like if this film didn't drag for fucking an extra 45 minutes to an hour, I'd be a little bit happier with watching it and like maybe try to.
I think we can all agree.
Try
this
to
film
go with
could
it,
Shave
but-
a fucking hour off.
Did
Yep.
this win like best screenplay? Fucking how? Holy shit!
No, it did not win Best
adapted
Screenplay.
Based on something that is not previously published or material, or something that is fictional or not made up, or the full name of the category in that time.
Yeah,
less.
no, more like fucking best dog shit.
Oh man, that's
At least
weird.
the next one's short.
Starting off the 70s strong, and then we get to start off with my second least anticipated, The French Connection.
Hey, French Connection is good. All right, I
All right,
liked
so
it.
The best one's Bridge on the Require, the worst one's Gigi, but the most boring one might be Pat.
We should start doing that.
That's
one.
not even true. Cavalcade? You
Yeah.
shitting me?
This shit was longer. I'm sorry.
Bro.
Runtime.
Bro, boring time. All right, best one's River Kwai, worst one's Tom Jones. I don't see that getting dethroned ever.
I don't know why we keep doing some fucking same shit as last week.
Yeah, but then The Godfather's gonna happen, and I'm not gonna
The
change it. I'm gonna change
Gentleman,
it.
Greatest show on earth. I still gotta catch up. I gotta
Yeah,
watch
you
all
do.
those ones I've
Yeah, I
missed.
can't wait for you to have Gigi right at the bottom.
Woo! More
Yeah,
like Tom
probably happen.
Jones, baby.
We'll see you guys next time for The French Connection.